The Washington Post, Army to review decision to have male cadets wear high heels. This is from 2015. We also have some other articles here that I want to talk about. Army approves lower physical fitness standards for women. And what is this? We have a Army's first female infantry officer says lowering fitness standards for women would put mission at risk. Captain Kristen Greist, an Army Ranger School graduate of the combat fitness test, said that. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Important information about the U.S. military and how it's falling apart, basically. This whole thing about walk a mile in her shoes, this Army to review decision to make male cadets wear high heels. So soldiers are wearing high heels, men are wearing high heels to walk around and understand what it's like to be a woman. Oh, women don't have to wear high heels. I can understand a woman's situation without dressing in drag. I don't have to dress up like a woman to understand what women go through. It can be explained to me. And you're saying, well, the feelings are so nebulous. You just don't understand what's like. I mean, women are just scared all the time. I'm scared. I had a guy pick a fight with me the other day at the gym. The heck? A lot bigger than me. So anyway, thank you all for stopping by. I do appreciate everybody coming to my channel, supporting my work. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed. Watch the video to the very end. You can find me over on Rumble and on Twitter. Check out my merchandise store. And we're going to get into today's topic, which is the U.S. military is falling apart. And we know this. We see that the recruitment is down, and they're blaming it on obesity and stuff like that. Well, there's good reason why the recruitment is down, and it's not obesity and anything like that. Let's take a look here at this video.
It doesn't surprise me. Most alarming, as I write in Only the Strong, is it's seeping into our military as well. This is done largely at the behest of the civilian appointees at the Department of Defense under Joe Biden. The idea that there's a sexist or racist or extremist lurking around every corner, hiding behind a highly polished and creased veneer, which is simply not the case.
Right. So if you don't know who this is Senator Tom Cotton. This is on the Dave Rubin show, the Rubin Report. Only about 12,000 people watch this, so I did want to bring attention to it because it is crazy what he's going to say here in this video. The notion that, yeah, there's like a sexist hiding behind every corner. They're just all over the place just because men are attracted to women. It's like, yeah, that doesn't mean that men are bad just because they're attracted to women. And if you don't like it, ladies, why don't you all just get like fat and ugly and then you don't have to worry about it?
Our military is exceptional. They recruit from a very select group of young men and women. You're much safer and you're much more likely to be judged on your merits in our military than you are, for instance, at some left-wing college campus in America.
That's true. You know, at a left-leaning college in the United States, you're going to be judged on your race, on your gender, on your sexual orientation, all that stuff.
It hasn't stopped down to the lowest level an effort to indoctrinate our troops with things like critical race theory or gender ideology. I'll tell you a story that I tell in Only the Strong as an example. A friend of mine with whom I served recently became a battalion commander, so he's in charge of about 800 to 1,000 troops. He has to ensure that his troops all go through something called the healthy sexuality briefing.
That's important. You know, I want my soldiers to have healthy sexuality. I want them to look at women and go, she's hot, I would do her. Now where's the enemy so I can kill him? That's what I want from my soldiers.
This is a lot more than what troops got back in World War II about the threats of STD and things like that. This is all about gender identity and transitioning and so on and so forth. And he says that this is tracked all the way up to the division headquarters and presumably submitted to some higher command at the Department of Defense. So he says...
So in other words, they're keeping track of whether or not soldiers are undergoing this training in ideology, this gender ideology training, where, you know, anybody can be any gender they want to be. There's 28 million pronouns, and you can change gender. Gender is fluid, and this and that and the other. All that stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Put yourself in the shoes of one of my company commanders who's in charge of about 125 of my troops. He knows that he's got some bureaucrat up at higher headquarters looking over his shoulder to ensure that there's a little green check mark next to every soldier's name on the healthy sexuality briefing. He doesn't have that same bureaucrat looking over his shoulder on things like shoot, move, and communicate tactical training at the squad level.
Really? See what we're into here? We are actually destroying our own country. Do you think that the military is going to be an effective fighting unit if they're worried about understanding gender fluidity? So we're doing this to ourselves. People want to point to China and say, oh, look, they're influencing it. They're doing this, they're doing that. Yo, China's got their fingers all over the place in this country. But yeah, we're bringing this about on ourselves. It's like, oh, freedom run amok is what is happening here.
What is he going to take a risk on in his quarterly training plan? Is he going to take a risk on not achieving 100% briefing on healthy sexuality? Or is he going to take a risk that not all of his troops will go through the appropriate kind of tactical training to have them ready to fight and win on the battlefield? I think the question answers itself. And now maybe they won't go to war, and maybe their lives won't be put at risk because our military prioritized the wrong things in training. But do we really want to gamble our national security on that?
Yeah, exactly the point. The military's job is to be strong and able to fight. Knowing who is what gender and why they are that gender has nothing to do with fighting.
The point that we want to gamble their safety on it. I suggest not. All this can end in a stroke, but it takes a new president, a new secretary of defense to put an end to it.
So is that what it would take? I mean, literally, so if we got, let's say, a Republican president, we now have a different secretary of defense. I mean, in essence, you're saying you have to fire a tremendous amount of the top brass at the military, right?
No, I don't think that's necessary, Dave, because, the military is different from, say, the Department of Labor or the Department of Health and Human Services. There is a chain of command, and there's an ethos of moving out when you've received a lawful order. And I think it would only take a new president, Republican Secretary of Defense, say all this ends today. So for instance, Dave.
So exactly. Look, it's Joe Biden pushing this agenda, this crazy, insane, progressive agenda that we're supposed to want to have. We're supposed to want to have everybody be all these different weird things that make no sense, that just fly in the face of biology. It's like, wait a second, what? Now, you think that you are the opposite gender? Okay. You got to respect everybody. Well, hey, you know what? Women shouldn't probably be in the military. They're smaller and weaker than men on average. So also, they're kind of essential for the continuation of your civilization. They're the ones where the bottleneck is. Like if you have 10 women and 100 men, there's a good chance that group of people is going to die out in a few generations. If it's the other way around, if you have 10 men and 100 women, you could repopulate that and keep that civilization growing. Women should not be putting themselves into deadly situations such as war, in other words.
When I was in the Army, I frequently, once every 6 months, we had a lot of mandatory briefings. You normally set aside a morning of training for it. And it was on everything from equal opportunity policies to motorcycle safety to personal finances. And that briefing made clear, albeit shortly, that the Army is an equal opportunity organization. It does not tolerate any kind of harassment or discrimination on the basis of race or sex or religion or nationality or what have you. And that was that. And I never saw anything like that when I was in the Army, Dave. All it takes is one Secretary of Defense say, we're going back to the old ways of reminding our troops that this is an equal employment organization, equal opportunity organization, and we have zero tolerance for any kind of harassment and discrimination. Here's one PowerPoint slide that states that policy. A soldier will get briefed on that once a year, once every 6 months. And if I find out any command is using anything other than this single statement of policy, that commander will be removed. That will end the nonsense right there, I promise you.
Oh, at least he's got a plan. That would probably work. And he's going to actually, I think, expound on that notion and tell us how it's going to work.
Most of these commanders want to do. You think my friend, my battalion, who just became a battalion commander, who's achieving the pinnacle of his professional career, wants to spend his time on a healthy sexuality briefing? No, the vast majority of officers and senior enlisted troops want to focus on training their troops, being ready to fight a war. They don't want to have to focus on all these distractions.
When you're back home in Arkansas and you're talking to constituents and they're seeing all of this craziness with the gender stuff, and we just covered it on my show where the president is, sitting at the White House with a trans journalist who's, and in essence, he's saying that the states shouldn't have rights when it comes to whether these procedures should go through. Just a litany of crazy things. I would suspect in a place like Arkansas, there is very little tolerance for this kind of thing.
Yeah, Dave,
And Arkansas has been in the news recently regarding trying to stop children from getting these medically unnecessary procedures.
I've learned over the last 10 years, what I kind of sense growing up is you can never underestimate the good, decent common sense of hardworking Arkansans. And when they hear things like kids being exposed to transgender ideology in kindergarten or second grade, of doctors performing double mastectomies on healthy teenage girls or using drugs to block normal pubescent development in boys and girls, they just think it's insane. Our legislature has, in fact, taken action to stop that kind of abuse of children, which I think any decent civilized society should. It's one thing when someone becomes 18 years old and is an adult and can make decisions for themselves. But just like we take a lot of other steps to protect children from fads and fashions and from irresponsible adults, I think this is a reasonable step that we take as well in my state and hopefully a lot of other states to protect young children.
Do you sense that the direction that America is going in, where the states are now feeling very, very different than each other? I know you appreciate federalism, so look, I was in California. It went off the deep end. I now live in Florida. As I tell everyone, I feel like I live in a different country, actually. But do you think that this trend, where the red states seemingly will be more red, the blue states seemingly will be more blue, Do you think there's a danger there that we will have nothing that will unite us at some point if we keep going down that route?
Well, Dave, I think the real danger is more of these liberal states and cities trying to impose their views and their values on the more conservative areas of our country. Yeah. Take California and Arkansas as an example. I love California. It is a beautiful state. It's got a great history. It's got great people. I don't agree with much of the political turn it's taken over the last 20 years, however. It's lost a lot of great people like you who want to get away from the higher taxes and the regulation and the lack of housing and the high costs. At the same time, I wouldn't presume to set the laws for California from Arkansas. I wouldn't think that I get a say or that my fellow Arkansans get a say in dictating what are traditional state and local matters to a state like California. That's not the case the other way around, though. You know, California, right, like other states, have tried to impose their views and their values on other states. Sometimes they even do things like adopting travel bans, saying that California officials can't travel to a state like Texas or Arkansas, unless, of course, you're Gavin Newsom, then you can travel to places like Idaho and Montana to go to your multi-million-dollar resort lodges with your security detail.
Yeah.
So he just talks about how the left-leaning states are trying to impose their will on the entire country. I want to end this with a little video that you may have seen. It's old now. It's been around, but this compares men to women and how we should probably, keep men as men and women as women. It's just that is the natural order of things. We have a whole society here that says, no, that's wrong, but you can't fight biology. And it's really coming to a head here where we're trying to fight biology, and it's just, we're seeing how it doesn't work and how we can't really function, how the country's falling apart because of it. So I'll catch you in the next video.
Boyard is a firefighter.
I hope they've taught you how to knock down doors.
Definitely.
In you go.
Oh no!
As high as you can. As high as you can. As high as you can.
Take a bigger run up. She's a hard lady.
Come on, Jane. Remember the elbow. Big run, as fast as you can.
That's
and high.
Go for it.
High.
Oh.
High.
Really? So close.
As fast as you can. Well done.
Get going. Oh. Come out. That was such a great effort.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just 2 more throws and you would have been there, but that's tough for you.
A man with no firefighter training has no trouble with the same task.
It's a bit of an ouchy one, I think. Be aiming higher, that's it. You got it! It's on the floor. Okay, brilliant. He's got the key. Come out. Yeah, okay, fab. Brilliant, well done.
A woman can actually fail the physical component of the fireman test and still become a firewoman to meet female quotas.